Hi, this is Minder Chen. I haven't produced videos, lectures, tutorial for a while, but recently I found some exciting development in the information technology world, which is the release of ChatGPT by OpenAI in November the 30th. Within 5 days, it reached 1 million user, which is kind of record-breaking quick adoptions and diffusion. So there's a lot of actually YouTubers and news report on ChatGPT. So we're not going to actually talk about the background and the technology behind ChatGPT, which I would do probably video later on. But once I start playing with it, I start to think about how I may use it in my own teaching or how my student may use it to learn various subject area. And one area that I'm interested in is certainly programming, because I have learned and taught different programming language for many years and understand how some students may struggle in terms of learning a new programming language, particularly for students who have never actually learned any programming language. So once I played with ChatGPT, I found out that it can be a great kind of intelligent tutor to support anyone who is willing to learn a programming language to get started. And in this series of lectures, video lecture that I'm planning to do, this is the first one, we are going to focus on Python, because Python is one of the most popular programming language nowadays, particularly for data analytics and for machine learning. Which, broadly speaking, for AI as well. But we're going to start from the very basic level, assuming that you don't have any programming background, and assuming you are interested in learning Python. And certainly, if you do have programming background, it will be even better. We will have other series of video covering using Python for data analytics, covering using Python for machine learning. So without further ado, let's just get started. Okay. Let me use one slide to kind of go over how to set it up and how to use ChatGPT. It is web-based. And you will go to chatopenai.com to obtain an account. For most of the people in the world, they should be able to do it, but you do need to have a cell phone to kind of verify your identity. And it's not available in certain countries, but very few countries it's not available. So once you're in, it's web-based. You open the browsers. You can just click New Chat, and this is the area over here. This is the area that you would actually enter your instruction, request, or question. This is a chatbot for carry a dialogue with you. And so, for instance, I have already asked a question like, show me my first Python program. You can just hit an enter key. It will submit, you will submit actually your question. You can also click icon like this one over here. And once you submit it, the ChatGPT will start pumping out answers, and you can vote whether you like the answer or not if you wish. You could also actually click here called regenerate response. to ask the ChatGPT to create another response to the same question. And by the way, the question typically is referred to as a prompt. So we probably most likely will use the term prompt from now on. One of the tricks in using ChatGPT is actually how you craft your prompt, and sometimes we use even the term called prompt engineering. So there are several tips I'm going to share with you down the road, how you kind of formulate your prompt effectively to get a better answer. And by the way, each time you even submit the same prompt, you may actually get different answer. Okay, just keep that in mind. And so a chat or a conversation is actually a sequence of prompt and response from ChatGPT. So you can save the history of a chat, which will be recorded like here on the left-hand side here. And they will actually use the first few words from your prompt to name your chat, but you can click this pen icon to modify it to give a better, more memorable name. You can also delete the whole chat, okay? So you've got a list of conversations on the left-hand side. There's a scrolling bar. You can scroll down and see the earlier one. And you can double-click any one and then to bring a chat back on and continue the chatting. And by the way, the chat once you created, the prompt that you created and the response that you got back from ChatGPT, you cannot really delete it. Okay, you can delete the whole chat, but you cannot delete individual prompt within a chat or the response. You can modify a prompt, but not deleting it. Okay, so keep that in mind. And you probably don't want your chat to be too long. Okay, because particularly if you're changing a topic, you probably want to start a new chat. Okay, that's pretty much it. If you want to have a line break in your prompt, you use Shift and Enter key. But do remember, Enter key itself, you're submitting the prompt. Okay, so sometimes I confuse like Shift Enter is submitting or not. No, Enter key is submitting it. And certainly you can always use this icon next to the prompt that you're creating actually here, this triangle to submit it. This is the icon for an existing prompt that you can click on it and modify your prompt and resubmit it. Okay. I think that's pretty much all about the interface of ChatGPT. So let's look at, I already have one, I actually have a bunch of it. Let me just click, for instance, I click on this one. So this is the one I'm actually have written something, and I would just say rewrite the following. And so ChatGPT basically just will rewrite it for me. Certainly once again, there's no guarantee ChatGPT would be totally accurate or write something makes sense. So you actually certainly have to review this and maybe even revise it. But personally, I find ChatGPT is doing a really good job in terms of rewrite something that I have written. So your prompt in this case can be pretty long, by the way. But since we're focusing on using ChatGPT for programming, so let me just show this one that I have created. To save time, I'm going to just show you the history of this chat. I just say, show me my first Python program. So in this case, let me make this bigger. ChatGPT responded and say, yeah, the first line of code is just print statement and say hello world. Okay. And when they generate code, ChatGPT is actually pretty good in terms of helping people for certain programming language, and Python is one of them. And you can copy the code, okay? And then if you set up your Python, let me switch to my Python programming environment. And by the way, I'm using actually Jupyter Notebook, and it is set up through Anaconda. Let me see whether I have example. This is Anaconda Navigator. Once you download Anaconda's installation, you can call it up by actually call up the Anaconda Navigator, and then you will find Jupyter Notebook has already been installed for you. And actually, quite a few of commonly used additional library will be installed for you. That will save you some trouble. And you can click launch, and once it's launched, you're going to find something like this, okay? Which means you're going to go to the root directory of the Jupyter Notebook, and which has a bunch of potential subfolder or program. And you can create a new, basically a new, let's start from scratch. You can create a new Python 3 Jupyter Notebooks page. We can consider that's a page. Okay, so actually that page has been created. There's no name for it, which means you can name the page. You just double click and just say my first Python program, rename it. So you're here, you can just say paste. Remember, we copied the code, say print hello world. Let me enlarge it a little bit. And if you hit enter key, you actually get an extra new empty line. But if you want to execute it, you can click run or shift enter key. Okay, this is where Jupyter Notebook and ChatGPT is just the opposite. Okay, ChatGPT, if you say, if you enter key, you're submitting your prompt. And if you hit shift enter key, you're getting a new line in your prompt that you can add additional things. But for Jupyter Notebook, it's the opposite. So, but you can just always click the run. But the shortcut key is shift enter, and we're going to print out the hello world. Okay, for those who've never done programming, hello world is actually pretty famous because one of the C computer programming book, Bible was called it, the first line of code is actually print out hello world. And why? Because programming, eventually we need to generate some output. Okay, we get some input, we will produce, getting some data, we would calculate something, manipulate the data, and generate something. If a program doesn't generate anything, it's considered useless. So, so the first thing to learn is actually how to print things out. And certainly printing would display on the screen. Some output would write something to your file, to a file, external file, or to a database. That's more advanced. But so let's just play with the print command here. So that seems to work. So let's come back here and see what ChatGPT have given to me. ChatGPT actually explained how I should run the program. It's actually using a more primitive environment, which we're going to skip it because that's more challenging, a little bit more difficult for beginner. And so then I asked the second question in my prompt and say, what is the best IDE, which is an integrated, actually ChatGPT know that, it's an integrated development environment. It's the tool that you will use to write your Python program, to run it, to compile it, to run it, etc. So, and actually I try to emphasize for learning Python, okay, for production environment, the IDE may be different. So ChatGPT actually seems to suggest PyCharm, IDLE, Visual Studio Code. This is from Microsoft, but it's open source. It's run on Windows and Mac and support multiple languages. So it's not a bad choice. I play with it a little bit. And Eclipse is open source environment for C++, C++, and maybe for Java and a few things, and including Python. Okay. And by the way, Visual Studio Code, you actually need to kind of install additional support to support Python, but it's actually pretty decent support for Python. And however, it didn't mention the one that I recommended, which is Jupyter Notebook. So I'm kind of complained to ChatGPT. I say, you forgot Jupyter Notebook. And ChatGPT say, thank you for pointing it out. I apologize for the oversight. They kind of agree with me. I'm happy about that. So they kind of explain what Jupyter Notebook is. You can kind of read this. And then I asked question, what's the best way to install Jupyter Notebook? You can say install Jupyter Notebook on my PC, on my Mac and things like that. And here I didn't mention that specifically. And so the best way to do it is actually use the so-called Anaconda distribution for Python. Okay, and basically just Anaconda. Okay, they even give you a link. If you go to the link, you will actually, I think I have it here. There's an Anaconda distribution. They kind of detect I'm using Windows environment, so you can download the Windows package for installation, which would take a while. Depends on the speed of your computer in terms of downloading the installation. And Python, the current version supported through the Anaconda is version 3.9. You certainly want to use the latest version. Okay, and so let's come back. So that's good. They talk about how you may install Jupyter if you Jupyter Notebook if you have Python already installed on your machine, which not our approach. So we'll skip that. And by the way, you shouldn't rely on ChatGPT to learn Python all by itself. So I asked question, give me some website for Jupyter Notebook. In this case, it's about learning about Jupyter Notebook and using Python. So they came up with a few things and give me a few even link. And by the way, a lot of response through ChatGPT does not provide any citation references, and this is just a few exceptions here because I asked about website. So DataCamp, which is really for data science and a lot of things, machine learning, and this is a good resource. Jupyter documentation. This is actually the nonprofit organizations supporting Jupyter's, and you can find its documentation. Kaggle actually has a lot of open source data. I don't think there's a lot of tutorial on how to use Jupyter Notebook. You can also just search on YouTube and find out some tutorial. And they even give you some suggestion here and say Python Jupyter Notebook tutorial. Use that key phrase, search YouTube. And the response always ended like something like, I hope this is helpful and let me know if you need anything. So I encourage you to keep asking questions. But once again, keep your question in the same line of, same trend of thought. If you thinking about something totally different than what your conversation is, it's time to create a new chat. So let's keep going. I say, show me a program that will greet a user with the username. Okay, this implies that the user have to tell the program its name, his or her name. That means we need to get some input from the user. Okay, that's my intention, because remember, hello world, print hello world will basically just print out hello world as it is. It's pretty boring program. Every time you run it, you get hello world. How can we make it interactive? ChatGPT say that in Python, you can use the input function and prompt. I'm also using prompt here, but it's not ChatGPT's prompt, which means we will print out this "what is your name" as a prompt to tell the user what they should enter. And then we're going to store that whatever information they have entered, their response, to a variable called name. In programming language, we have something called variable, which allows us to store some data, value, etc. Okay, here will be whatever the user enter. And then we can print out, say, hello, comma, space, and the name. The name will be substituted by the value stored in the variable name. So we're not going to print out, say, hello name. We're going to print out, if I enter Minder, it's going to print out hello Minder and add an exclamation mark. The plus sign here, and by the way, we're dealing with string with single or double quote in Python, and that's a variable which is also a string. And then we can, plus sign means string concatenation. We combine those strings together in a longer string and print it out. So let's see what will be the result. So here's my, the program that just copied over. I can just run it. Let me just demonstrate. You can click run. And this is the prompt I was mentioning. Okay, input, that's the prompt show up here. So whatever you write here will prompt the user, what is your name? So I'm going to just say Minder Chen. And by the way, my name is Minder Chen. I may forgot to introduce myself. I just assume that a lot of you who watch this may have seen my video before. So you can hit enter key. Once you enter, the variable name will store the value Minder Chen in it. It's a string data type. And then when Python execute the print command, they will say hello, comma, space, hello, comma, space, concatenate, plus sign, concatenate, retrieve the value stored in the variable name, which is Minder Chen. So Minder Chen will show up. and then print exclamation mark, and that's what we have. Okay, so that's pretty cool. You know how to do input and output. You know how to use a variable name to store value. You know how to do string concatenation. You know, that's a lot, right? So let's do a little bit more, okay? I hate to make a really long program, but let's just finish what we have here to get it a little bit more exciting. So we're back here, and by the way, ChatGPT actually, if you really look at what has been generated, not only they generate the code, they actually explaining it for you. Okay, they kind of know that you may not know programming much. Okay, that's good. That's why I consider ChatGPT is really a great intelligent tutor, at least a good tutor, intelligent or not, to help people to learn programming. Okay, I'm really excited about this, and I want to spread the words around because we do need programming literacy in our society. For a lot of people, eventually, if they know a little bit of programming, it will be helpful. And for some people who are more willing, certainly can train themselves to be really a good programmer and get advance in their career. So they even show you how the result when you run the program. So if you say, what is your name? If you answer Alice, they would print out hello Alice. Okay, but through the Jupyter Notebook environment, we can do that without any problem. Okay, and let's get a little bit more challenge. Okay, and here you can see the power of ChatGPT. I said let the program ask for name and age, two variable, respond with a greeting with the username, okay, based on their name, and tell the user, okay, tell him or tell her his designation. Okay, would explain what designation is, and based on the American Medical Association age designation. This is what I found. I'm not sure whether this is the one. Yes, okay, this is actually NIH's website, and say actually the following are the American Medical Association age designation. And from neonates or newborns, okay, never heard about neonates, infant, children, adolescents, or I guess we can just simply call it teenager, and adult, and older adults after 65 years old. So this is actually kind of a range, okay? And let's see what ChatGPT generated, okay? They basically generate the program, okay? They get the name, they get the age, everything the user input through this input statement will be a string. So here they use, we call it a data type conversion function. In this case, int just means integer, which means convert that string into integer, because later we're going to use that integer kind of compare with some number or age, another integer to decide whether, in this case, if age less than 18, then the designation is child. Okay. And by the way, this is actually a little bit more complicated if statement, which means that we can say if age is, the meaning is if age is less than 18, the colon means allow this if statement to continue. Then, we usually say then, although you don't have to say then, but in a lot of other programming language, we say if this expression, okay, we compare the age enter. Let's say I enter 12. 12 is less than 18, so that's true. When it's true, then the destination will be child. If it's not, then you keep compare. You keep going and say if. We usually call it else if, and in short, we just say if. Else if it's not less than 18, then is it less than 25? And by the way, when we say less than 25, it doesn't mean if you're 12 years old, this is true, because if you're 12 years old, this will be true, and then you're going to assign child to destination, then you're done. You're done with this whole if statement. You get out of it. Okay. However, if you're, let's say, 20, this is not true, then you keep going. Okay. So 20 is less than 25, then the destination is young adult, and then you jump out of it. Got it? The same thing for then if you're more than 25 years old, let's say 60 years old, then your destination will be adult, because 60 less than 65, then okay, that's adult. Else, which is catch all, which means if none of the above, then the destination will be senior. Okay. When you write programming language, you need to be very careful. Computer, you have to communicate with the computer in a very precise way. Follow the syntax and avoid any typing error. And by the way, the variable name is case sensitive, so you make sure you follow the lower uppercase. And most variable in Python, we prefer to use lowercase. Okay. And so here, let's look at the print statement. Print hello, let's say Minder, okay, whatever being entered. Based on your age, you are a, and we'll print out the actual designation. Okay, so this will work. Okay, let me copy this. And we'll execute it in. So we say, what is your name, what is your age, etc. So let's just say run, shift, enter key. Okay, what is your name? Let me just say Alice. Alice in the Wonderland. Hit enter. Alice, I think Alice about 12 years old. Okay. So should be a child. Say, hello Alice, based on your age, you are a child. We can run it again and say, what is your name? I'll say John. Let's say John is 60 years old. 60 years old, if you really look at it, it should be adult. So let's see whether that's the case. We'll hit enter key. Hello John, based on your age, you are an adult. Okay, it should be an adult. We can actually fix it. You need to write another if then else statement in your print, wrap your print statement underneath it, because the designation, if it has a vowel, to start with a vowel, then you have to say an instead of a. Okay, but this is good enough. Okay. However, did you see the problem? The problem is that I wanted to use the designation by the American Medical Association's age designation. Okay, but they're not there yet. Okay, if you look at the answer, they don't have that exact designation. Okay, and after the code, by the way, in the response, they kind of explain this a little bit. Okay, so read this through because it's very similar to how I explained it to you. They're kind of explaining to you in a very detailed fashion. So this is a good way to learn about the programming language. So but I want the program to be generated to follow the American Medical Association's designation. So let me do this. Let me maybe, by the way, let me just show you this. I don't want this to be that complicated. I can revise what I have, the prompt that I submitted previously. So I would just say, oh, okay. So let me copy this over. I delete stuff by accident. So let me just make this newborn. Okay. Infant, children. Let me just make this, just call it teen. And so just keep it a little bit simpler. And adult, older, okay, and older adult, maybe we'll use older one, okay. So I can kind of resubmit it, save this and resubmit it, okay. Newborn. Okay, so ChatGPT is generating the response, including the code. Okay. While they're generating a really long prompt, don't click anything because you're going to stop the process. So wait until it finishes. Okay, and perfect. If you really look at it, right? That's pretty cool. Let's double check. They're still not getting it. They say newborn is birth to 1 month, infant is 1 month to 1 year. So that's a little bit tricky because the age, I think we'll take it. We'll just say newborn or infant because when we enter age, there's no easy way for us, at least in this program, to say it's only 0.1 years old. Okay, you can try that, but I think this is good enough. Okay. So let's copy the code. And then we'll run it. What's your name? I'll just say Mary. Your age, let's try 66. Enter. And say, hello, Mary. Based on your age, you are an older adult. Okay. So that's pretty cool, right? So if we look at this program, we know how to get input, we know how to use variable, we know how to convert string to integer, we know how to write an expression which will be evaluated to return a Boolean value, yes or no. Okay, this is less than sign, age is less than 1 and destination is newborn. And by the way, the equal sign here, I forgot to mention for those who've never done programming, this is not, it is an equal sign, but in this case, it's a assignment statements symbol, which means newborn as a value will be stored in the destination variable. Okay. And so once again, that's assignment statement. The left-hand side usually is a variable. The right-hand side is actually is a string. It can be a number and things like that. Okay. Let's see. I figured out the way I can quickly fix this problem. You are or and. One way we can do it is actually, instead of trying to figure it out here, we'll just say a newborn, a child, a teen, an adult, an older adult, or a senior. Okay. And so I think that will work. Okay, and we also leave a space here so they will not concatenate with the R. That sounds good. So let's run it again. Your name, let's try Mary again. Hit enter key. 66. Hit enter again. Hello Mary, based on your age, you are an older adult. Okay. So that's how you use ChatGPT to help you to learn about programming. And so you can keep asking questions or start a new chat. For instance, you can come back to the top here and just say, yeah, I'm done. And by the way, you can modify this and just say first Python hello world. Okay. You kind of know it, and say save it. So maybe just say Python hello world, because when you say hello world, we know that's your first program. And you can delete it. If you delete it, you delete the whole thing. If you really want to keep a kind of learning journal yourself, I will just copy the whole thing and paste it into a Word document. Okay. And if you want to start a new chat, just click this new chat or plus sign here. And by the way, since we're here, read this and let me briefly explain it. They give you example how you should ask the question, like explain quantum computing in simple terms. So you can kind of mention the style that you want. Okay, we'll get to those tips for prompt, but here's got any crazy idea for 10 years old's birthday. Okay, this is kind of, you ask ChatGPT to do brainstorming for you. Okay, which is considered creativity. Brainstorming is one of the creative problem solving most used technique or activity. Okay, and you can ask ChatGPT to help you to write a program. Okay, how do I make HTTP requests in JavaScript? Okay, so not only they know Python, they know JavaScript, and they know a few other language, popular language. Not all the programming language out there, but they do know a lot of language. There's popular language which has a lot of document on the web, such as Stack Overflow, which is a website has a lot of people asking questions about programming language. this is important. Okay, we'll wrap it up once I go over this. Capability. Okay, it remember what the user said earlier in the conversation. Conversation is equivalent to chat. Remember, we kind of ask prompt and then response by ChatGPT, and we can keep asking the same additional question. That's a single conversation, a single chat. Okay, they seems to remember what you have asked. For instance, when they start and say write something in Python for me, and after that you don't actually have to say write this in Python anymore. They kind of know you want it in Python, so you can save a few keystroke in entering your prompt. It allows the user to follow up correction. Okay, which means you can revise your prompt if you wish and submit it. Okay, and ChatGPT has also been trained to decline inappropriate requests. Okay, don't even try. There's a way actually to kind of get around certain inappropriate requests. I'm not going to get into it, but this is one of the things which ChatGPT has been successful compared to some earlier tried by some other companies' technology. And limitation, be aware, may occasionally generate incorrect information, okay, including incorrect programming code. May occasionally produce harmful instruction or biased content. Okay, and certainly try to fix that here, but they learn from the web. The web has some harmful and biased content. Okay, so if you want to blame ChatGPT, blame the knowledge or information out there on the web. Okay, and another thing is the knowledge, the training data. Okay, which you use to train ChatGPT up to, I think, the third quarter of 2021. So if you ask current event, what's the stock price today? Go and use Google. Okay, don't use ChatGPT. They have limited knowledge of the world, and also they don't usually have real-time access to the web. You cannot tell ChatGPT and go to this website and find the stock price for certain stock for you. They don't do that. Okay, I guess that's all. I'm pretty excited about this. I hope you like it. If you like it, just leave a comment, and I'll continue producing this series of video. And let's come back here. Okay, I'll have my affiliation. Let me go to the first slide. Okay. There's something I'm working on. I'm currently a professor of MIS at Martin Business School of Business and Economics, and this is my email. You can also reach me by my personal email account, which is minderchen@gmail.com. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me by email, or just leave some comment suggestions in the comment area of this video. Okay, that's it. I hope you like it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.